In June 1941, Hitler's invading armies easily punched through the Red Army's single line of defense. In spite of the compelling logic of defending against a highly mobile attacking force with a defense in depth, Stalin ordered the Red Army to defend every inch of Soviet territory. Against the recommendations of his generals, he had dismantled fortified areas located along the former frontier, the one that existed prior to the Soviet-German annexation of Poland. With this natural secondary defense line abandoned, with most of his troops spread out on the front line, and with the Red Army still suffering from his massacre of its officer corps, the Soviet forces incurred severe defeats. How Stalin reacted to this disaster is most important. At this time of peril, the leader of the Soviet Union disappeared. Historians report that no one saw him. He did not appear at the Kremlin. No one heard his voice on the telephone. Having established the most centralized government in modern history, his absence threatened to paralyze the nation. No one else had the power to issue important orders. His subordinates were too terrified to act. The historical records show that he did not sign a single document for a week and a half, from June 24 to July 2. Stalin's desertion of his post was an important reason for the early success of the Nazi invaders. What was the explanation for this strange disappearance? Stalin went on a bender. Benders are drinking episodes that run 2 or more days. So Stalin, the so-called man of steel, took to the bottle when faced with Hitler's invading hordes, with a force he could not control. He later regained enough control over his behavior to take command of his government. His people eventually defeated Hitler, but the fact of his bender stands. Although a fool might say that any national leader faced with the sudden invasion by Hitler's legions would feel like getting drunk. But nothing could be further from the truth. The normal response would be to flee or to fight. Only someone with a well-established addiction to alcohol would go on a bender. Nikita Khrushchev, premier of the Soviet Union, once said Stalin simply drank, and that sounds like the truth. Khrushchev was no abstainer from alcohol. While premier, he occasionally got drunk in public, including a publicized episode during a New York visit. The fact that he also drank adds great credibility to his blatant assertion that Joseph Stalin had a drinking problem. Stalin delivered a radio speech to his nation on July 3, 1941. He spoke in a dull, colorless voice, seemed to be ailing and at the end of his strength. And when he paused to drink from a glass of water, observers noticed that his hands were trembling. Alcoholism causes tremors of the hands. This was not Stalin's only bender. According to historians, he was in the habit of suddenly disappearing for days. Even before the war, he would tell his subordinates not to disturb him, then spend several days at his dacha. It is not unusual for some alcoholics to develop periodicity in their benders. These missing days, including the documented one when Hitler attacked, were probably Stalin's lost weekends. Watch your other videos to learn more. Get your copy of History's Missing Alcoholics available on Amazon now.